Okay, as I was introduced, I'm Jason Harries, Commercial Director of a startup company based in Gloucestershire called Adaptavate. Okay, so what's our vision? How do we see it? Well, we believe in order to achieve a circular economy, we need to challenge and need to replace the products and materials that we currently use within the construction sector. Rather than continue to plunder finite resources, we believe the future is in growing your materials. You know, we're talking, and we mentioned earlier, you know, we're looking at other planets, we're looking at going and mining things in other places. Well, how much money are you going to spend on that when you've actually got answers much closer to home? You know, it's just challenging, it's looking at these things in a different way. It's not only that, Adaptavate believe that to be truly circular, we shouldn't be planting crops, we shouldn't be growing products just in order to make a product. We look at taking waste from products that are already being grown, so those products, those crops have benefit elsewhere as well. It means we don't add any waste streams to the environment, we take waste streams and turn them into products. Adaptavate has sought to utilise crop waste for the reason that there's many species available and many of the different types are suitable to bring the high performance characteristics that we look to use in our products. We've worked with that because they're abundant in different geographies, different products, different countries. Why ship material long ways unless you have to? If we're working in different countries, for example, the area where we're based in the southwest of England, we have a lot of oilseed rape, so we can take waste from that product. In the north, we have industrial hemp. In other countries, Canada, we're looking at North America, again, industrial hemp, widely used, widely grown. I have a colleague here today who looks after the Benelux region for us, again, a very much a hemp-grown area. So we can take different crop waste relevant to that and turn into products. That way we're reducing the need to create the carbon in terms of moving and also the financial costs in terms of moving raw materials long distances. The final thing that we look to make it really circular is the choice of materials that we look to use are biodegradable, they're compostable. So rather than just plunder resources and then wonder at the end of the life what we do with them or have great problems or difficulty getting rid of it, the products we develop can be composted. Simple as that. The kind of utopia for it is that we look at composting it back, putting it back into the soil, which we grow the raw materials back into. So what exactly is Adaptavate doing about it? Well, what we do is to develop high-performing bioaggregate composites out of crop waste. We've got one product which we've brought to market already. We've got one product of which we're developing. The product we've got on the market already is a bagged plaster called Breather Plaster. The product's been out on the market for about 18 months. It is, as you may guess by the name, it's a bag ready to mix plaster for internal walls and ceilings, going onto a wide range of substrates within the built environment. The hero product, the product we're doing a lot of development on at the moment, the product we're raising investment to build a production line for, is a board version of that. So we're looking at developing a drop-in alternative to plasterboard, again, made using the bioaggregates. Now I'll come on to why that's important in a minute and what the challenges are around that industry, but that's the product which we're looking to develop. Like I say, currently we're just seeking to scale it up into a level where we can make it. The problem about doing something new, you can't go and buy a factory off the shelf. Now, both these products we've currently used, they've been used on commercial jobs, domestic jobs. It's been used in Elwarb's offices as well. We've been using the Conduit Club in Mayfair, Sustainable Bankside, if you're familiar with places like that as well. One of the key functions around the products we've designed is we need to keep them easy to use. Tom, who's our founder, was a builder by trade. Being a builder, he knew that if you're going to ask anyone to change anything, one of the fundamental things is make it simple. If you put challenges up, you put barriers up, it's going to make it much harder to change. So why target that industry? Why target what we're targeting? Well, we've picked a very conservative industry in the construction sector, and we're taking on a very large and established market. We're taking on gypsum, we're taking on plasterboard. Look at that industry, there's very few manufacturers in that sector, and they tend to produce in large volumes. So you can ask the question, are we crazy? Do I look crazy? We don't think we are. You're okay? When we look at the challenges that that sector faces, I think we're crazy not to look at other things. So we know that as a construction industry, plasterboard has one of the biggest impacts in that sector. So by entering that, we can have the greatest impact in what we're doing. And one of the things that we set Adaptavate up to do is to have a social impact. What we don't want to do is we don't want to become a high-end niche product. That's not helping. You know, it's great, it's out there, it's great, it's a business, but we want to actually challenge, and we want to challenge on a scale where it's needed. Now, the gypsum industry is suffering a couple of problems. Now, my background, I've sat on organisations, government-led bodies like the Plasterboard Sustainability Partnership, and going back even 10 years, we were looking into this. So the feedstock for gypsum at the moment, it either comes from mined gypsum, and in the UK, the rights to that are held by one manufacturer, and they proudly announced recently they'd opened a new mine which had 20 years' worth left. I mean, we look at that and say 20 years' worth? Really? Okay, we can keep growing crops much longer than that, so really? Now, the main feedstock that's used in it is what's called flue gas desulfurized gypsum, which comes from the emissions of, or comes from dampening the emissions of carbon and coal burning power stations. So they spray lime water in, and what falls is effectively reoxygenated and turned into synthetic gypsum. Well, anyone spot a problem with that? It's coming from carbon burning and coal-fired power stations. Well, in this country and throughout Europe, they're diminishing. So we're looking at a feedstock, we're looking at a resource which over the future years is going to become more scarce. What happens when things become more scarce? Prices go up. So we see products like that which are going to be much more vulnerable over the next 5 to 10 years to what's happening in the bigger economy. So one of the other well-publicised shortfalls of the gypsum industry is how you get rid of it. When it's waste, it's classified as hazardous, and by that it means you can't put it into landfill. You can't put it into landfill with organic matter. It creates sulfur dioxide. So you need to monocyl landfill it. Now, a great industry is spread on the back of recycling gypsum. Absolutely, I used to be involved with that myself. What do we do with it? Well, most of it gets recycled and put back onto land. A very, very small percentage can be recycled and put back into product. The challenge when you put it back into a product, it requires more energy to reprocess it and more energy to calcine it at the other end, so it's creating greater energy use in trying to recycle it anyway. Okay, so we know there's issues around getting rid of it there. It's also the cost. You've got to segregate it as waste on a construction site. I mean, the figures that have come out just lately, we're looking up to £240 a tonne disposal costs, all told. Now, bear in mind, we're talking about Adaptavate, we're talking about the products we're looking at that are compostable. At the worst case, you'd put them into something like general waste, okay? The best case is we get them back, we compost them, we grow more product on there. So really, just to sort of sum up with what we're doing then, we believe with Adaptavate that we can show circular thinking in order to challenge and displace some of the established materials that are in the market. We believe that bringing products with more benefits to the environment, with the products that we look at, they have a number of strong characteristics. We're not just talking about bringing a product in to replace another product. We're looking at a product that has the ability to outperform the current products on the market, to make change more accessible. We look at products that are twice the thermal insulation value of current plasterboards, twice the acoustic ratings of current plasterboards. Okay, but the very, very key thing with what ours do is they also buffer moisture. And what that means, it absorbs and desorbs, so it regulates humidity. It's a passive regulator. So particularly in products like rental properties where you might have issues around mould and condensation build-up, we've got a product that passively deals with that. So we're looking at having products that give you healthier homes, healthier buildings, better for occupants, and beyond that, it's something where there's a resource that we're not going to make finite, and something which deals with the problems of now, looks at what we're doing for the future, and doesn't leave us with problems for the future. And that's where Adaptavate feel we sit with the circular economy.